It's quite rare that in my career I've never seen two missing children go at the same time.
The mystery of what happened to 6-year-old Lilly Mae Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother, Jack William James Sullivan, is indeed gripping the country and beyond.
My heart tells me these babies are gone. My heart tells me that.
It's been a long 6 weeks. I know that everybody basically in the world at this point is always wanting to know what happened.
They say time heals all wounds. But what if time only deepens them? It's been over 2 months since Lilly and Jack Sullivan disappeared from their home in Truro, Nova Scotia. And since that day, their names have haunted not just this small Canadian town, but thousands of us around the world who watched in silence, hoping, praying, and fearing the worst. I followed this case from the very beginning. And today, with new facts and testimonies finally coming to light, it's time to look again. Not with assumptions, not with theories, but with clear eyes and steady hands. This isn't just about 2 missing children. It's about the cracks in the systems that were supposed to protect them. It's about silence, secrecy, and choices made behind closed doors. From the very first hours of this case, one thing stood out. The RCMP officers weren't acting like they were searching for lost kids. They were asking questions that assumed the worst. The very first question asked to Daniel Martell, the children's stepfather, during a polygraph examination, was chilling. Did you kill Lilly and Jack? Not, where were you that night? Not, do you know where they are? But, did you kill them? Daniel later described the test as overwhelming. His voice was shaky when he recalled how the wires, the monitors, the lights, all seemed designed to break him. But what stood out more than the machines was the assumption built into every question. Police weren't looking for kids. They were looking for bodies. And that tells us something. From the very first day, investigators believed the children were dead. But why?
I know the truth. I didn't kill Lilly and Jack.
It's been 6 weeks now since you've seen Lilly and Jack. I just want to ask, how are you holding up?
It's been a long 6 weeks. I know that everybody basically in the world at this point is always wanting to know what happened. It's been from sadness to anger at this point. And I know the RCMP and major crimes are working around the clock trying to piece everything together, and I'm grateful for that. But it always leaves the question, 6 weeks has gone by, and we know at this point they're not in the woods, and where are they?
Did you feel in the beginning that they suspected you?
Of course. The stepfather was always a prime suspect right off the beginning.
You felt that from the beginning?
Yeah.
But you don't feel that now?
No, I don't feel that at all. I asked for the lie detector exam, the polygraph exam. I gave them my phone. I told them I, do drug tests because there's a lot of rumors online about a drug party. Mm-hmm. I know the person that said those rumors, and it was just to take the heat off themselves.
Was there any kind of party?
No.
Was there any kind of gathering that someone might have thought was a party?
No.
There were no people at the house?
No. Not the night before.
Okay, you mentioned you offered to take a polygraph test.
Yeah.
Did the RCMP take you up on that?
Yes, they did.
And how did that unfold?
That unfolded in my favor. They obviously know I wasn't lying about anything.
So they said, "Yep, great, thank you. Come in for a polygraph test."
Yeah, it took a little while to set up. And
when did you do that test?
I don't know the exact date, but that would be at least 3 weeks ago, probably.
So roughly 3 weeks after the disappearance.
Yeah.
And I think most Canadians wouldn't have any idea what's involved with that. Can you describe the process? You go in and just tell us right from the start.
We go in, sit down in a big comfy chair, and they have multiple sensory pads. You have them underneath your forearms, you have them underneath your butt, and you have them underneath your feet with your shoes off. You have a sweat gland on one finger. You have a measuring instrument for blood flow that goes in and out of your hand. And you have a cuff on your arm for blood pressure to measure your pulse.
Were you nervous?
Yeah, I was extremely nervous. Especially with the first question they asked you, did you kill Lilly and Jack?
That was the first question they asked you?
Yeah. Yeah.
What went through your mind when someone's asking you that question so point blank like that?
Your mind has a massive release of chemicals, I guess you would call them. It's like your stress levels just astronomically through the roof, and your body doesn't know what to do, because it's not every day the way you're hooked up to machines in an interrogation room where someone asks you questions like that.
What other kinds of questions did they ask you?
All the questions pertain to the death of Lilly and Jack. Are you accessory to the murder of Lilly and Jack? They were all.
So all of the questions assumed that the children are no longer alive.
Yeah.
There were no questions at all about, did you take them somewhere? Could
No.
they be somewhere?
No.
The police have done a number of polygraph tests. They've done 53 formal interviews. Do you know who these people are?
Yeah.
That's a lot of interviews.
It is a lot of interviews. A lot of them are my family, people that live in the area. And those interviews, typically, my interview was 4 hours. And a lot of the interviews from my family were 1, 2 hours. So there's a lot of time taken up, and they ask detailed questions.
Do you know who else actually took a polygraph test?
I mean, I do, but I'm not going to say anything that's going to impede the investigation.
Okay. When did you find out the result of your test?
Immediately right after.
What did they say to you?
You did a good job, you passed.
And how did that feel?
Good.
And did you feel that there was any further suspicion on you after that point, or was that sort of conclusive?
No, that was really when I seen the turning point for it's starting to taper off with investigators.
Do you know if Malaya has taken one?
I don't know if I can say it, but I will anyway. Yes, she did take one.
Okay, she took one. Do you know the result?
No. RCMP weren't allowed to tell me I asked.
You said you feel like everyone in the world wants to know what happened to Lilly and Jack.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think this is getting so much attention?
Well, just the mysterious and nature of everything and how strange everything is. The RCMP, you know, I mean, they have to keep a tight lip on everything, but there's a lot more that meets the eye with the case.
Is there something that you think the public doesn't know, that you can share, that you want the public to know?
That's a hard one because I don't want to impede the investigation in any way. It is still a missing persons investigation. It hasn't pivoted to any type of criminal investigation. But the kids were seen the day before. I know a lot of people didn't know that. I still see a lot of stuff online that the kids could have been missing for days. They were out of school for days, and they were seen in the Glasgow area on camera the day before the disappearance in the afternoon.
Where was that?
I don't know if I can say that, but it was near the Highland Square Mall.
Was it with you?
It was with me, Malaya, and Meadow, and Lilly and Jack were there too.
And are the police aware of that?
The police were aware of that since.
Do they have that video?
Yes, they do. I also talked to my coworker in the parking lot as well, and he verified that with investigators as well. So for all the speculation, they were gone days ahead of time, or they were seen the afternoon on camera before the disappearance.
Why do you think the police are asking for video dating back, days before that?
Well, the reason for that is they want to see the traffic of the vehicles on the roads in the area, right? Maybe vehicles that were traveling that area a lot over the last few days prior to hand, or vehicles that, weren't seen in the area, or vehicles that were seen in the area, like local people that are, making frequent trips past the house, or which it's all considered evidence. I mean, the more pictures and videos is the better.
They say they have hundreds of hours of video.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if they've found anything on those videos?
I think it was up to 2 weeks ago, They had footage that they examined for evidence that was 8 kilometers diameter out from the house. So that was after a month. That's how long it took to get footage and review it 8 kilometers out. So
But what's on the video?
I don't know. I'm only limited by what they tell me.
How often are they in touch with you?
Investigators now, I'd say maybe once every 5 days. And usually I'm the one who calls or messages them.
And how's that changed over the course of the 6 weeks?
Well, from the beginning it was almost daily, tapering off to where it's only like once every 5 days now.
And how do you feel about that?
It's good and bad. I mean, I like to talk to them in person about any little small details I come up with or anything I can try to bring to their attention which may help the investigation. So I don't get to see them often, so it's always over phone or messaging, and it's hard to really convey what you want to say when you're not in person. But then I also know the eye's not on me. The investigators don't see me as part of the disappearance.
How do you know that?
Well, when you're going from daily to tapering off every 5 days, I mean, I already gave them everything on my phone. I'm the one who originally said, here, take my phone. We'll go through all my banking information. We'll go through all my stuff on my GPS from Google.
And you were offering all that up right from
Yeah,
the
I
beginning.
offered everything.
And why were you doing that?
To show them that I want to get the investigation moving. I know I have nothing to do with any of it. A lot of speculation is you killed the kids. Let's come out and say it straight as it is.
What do you think when you read that?
It's a lot of nonsense, obviously. I know the truth. I didn't kill Lilly and Jack. And I just think a lot of people online they're seeking drama, that's the main thing. Everybody's allowed their own opinion, like I said before, but it's hard on the people that were actually there and missing the children. Still haven't got to see any of my kids, including Lilly and Jack, and that's been really tough, going from a family of 7, including my other 2 kids that live in Halifax now. Going from a family of 7 in the blink of an eye, your family's ripped apart and you're left alone.
To understand that, we have to go back to a name rarely mentioned in headlines, Cody Sullivan, the children's biological father. Most of the public attention was focused on their mother, Malia Brooks Murray, and her partner, Daniel Martell. But Cody's role in the story was quietly pushed aside. His mother, Belinda Gray, painted him as a struggling young man who couldn't handle fatherhood. In interviews, she described him losing his job, his apartment, and eventually, his contact with the kids. But court records tell a deeper story, or at least they seem to. In June 2024, a 28-year-old man named Cody Lee Sullivan was arrested in Prince George, British Columbia, after allegedly committing an armed robbery during an online sale meetup. RCMP confirmed the arrest and that Cody was released under conditions, awaiting further court proceedings. However, and this is important, there is no publicly available evidence connecting that Cody Sullivan to the missing children's case in Nova Scotia. No record confirms it's the same person. The names match. The province doesn't. And without a clear link, any assumptions remain just that, assumptions. What we do know is that Cody's presence in the children's lives faded long before they disappeared. But whether that's due to personal failings, legal troubles, or something else entirely, remains unclear. That raises uncomfortable questions. Was Malia trying to protect her children from a dangerous environment? Was she failed by a system that offered no better options? We may never know the full extent of that story. But it's clear. Cody Sullivan was not a stable presence, and that matters. It was only 7 weeks after the disappearance that Belinda Gray, the children's paternal grandmother, broke her silence. And when she did, her words shook us. "My heart tells me these babies are gone," she said, tears filling her eyes. "I just want them back." She spoke lovingly about Lilly, her little princess with brown hair and a gap-toothed smile. And about Jack, the quiet one, thoughtful, observant. You could tickle him, she said, and he'd just study your face like he was reading your soul. But even in her grief, Belinda shared something deeply troubling. Police had shown up at her door at 3 a.m., the day after the children vanished, asking if Cody had taken them. Why that level of urgency? Why that specific suspicion? Her answer gave us the first puzzle piece, but it wasn't the last.
My heart tells me these babies are gone. My heart tells me that. I am the grandmother of Lily and Jack. I am the grandmother on the biological father's side. My son is Cody Sullivan. He's not in jail. He's never been out west. He does not have a criminal record. And right now he's living with me. He has been for 9 months.
How did you find out that Lily and Jack were missing?
The mom of my grandson called me. We were in town. She asked if I heard the news. She sent me the article that was on Facebook showing the kids missing. I couldn't call Malay yet, so I waited till we got home. And I called, well, I didn't call her, I texted her. And she told me that, yes, that the kids were missing, that they've been missing since this morning. I was in a state of panic, shock. But in the back of my mind, I kept saying, well, they'll find them. I mean, I'm assuming that they'd find them. So I told her, well, we'll head out first thing in the morning and help with the search. It was around between 3 and 3:30 in the morning. A couple of cop cars pull into the driveway. The lights wake me up that I'm a fairly light sleeper, so I see the cars pull in, so I knew what it was. So they come inside. They only stood in the kitchen. They wanted me to wake Cody up, and they wanted to know when was the last time he had seen the kids, and that they were just making sure that the kids weren't here. And then they left. So we showed up Saturday morning, me and my sister, and we met up with my daughter, and we started, well, I asked Malaya, I said, Malaya, I said, you know your kids. Nobody knows their kids like their mom. Where do your kids normally go to play out in the yard? What direction do they usually like to explore? And she said, well, they always play up in the little woods right on the side. I said, well, okay. I said, we'll start from that point and we'll work our way out. We had spoken to a search and rescue, and we weren't allowed on the other side because that's where they were searching at the time. So we just started combing through the woods up through there. We were gone for a couple of hours. I'm yelling for Lily and Jack. We always called Jack Jackie Boy. And yeah, that went on for a few hours, but those woods, I started to feel that I can't see them being in the woods. There's trees everywhere. You literally have to climb over trees, climb under bushes. It is really, really thick. We come back out, and I went in to see Malay again. I assumed she was in shock. She was very non-emotional, very just flat, monotone. But Malay is very soft-spoken anyway, that she's not usually excitable. I thought that's made her a really great mom. She was an excellent mom. She never raised her voice at the kids. That it was always, now Lily, what did mommy say? And I used to think, now if anybody's meant to be a mom, it was her. A part of me still feels that.
Why only a part of you still feels that? What do you mean?
After seeing the place, seeing the condition of the home, it was like the total opposite of what I knew of Malaya. She was always clean, very clean about herself, about the kids, about her home. This home looked more like a camp. Now, I don't know if it's from all the people that were there, because I didn't show up till the day after. but it was very unkempt. I was pretty surprised.
I love you.
Lily is, she was my little dream girl, that the first granddaughter. And I loved that she had the brown hair and she had a space between her teeth, which I had when I was a kid. So yeah, she was our little princess. Jack was such a sober, serious little baby that he didn't like to smile. You could tickle him and he would look at you ever so serious, like he was really studying you.
And so how long were your son and Malaya together?
3.5 years, I think it was, yeah. I thought they were the picture-perfect family. Then Malaya started to tell me that they were having problems and she wasn't happy. She told me that she wasn't happy and she thinks she's going to leave. And I told her that we supported whatever she decides, that one good parent is way better than 2 broken ones.
And then how did that change your relationship with Lily and Jack?
I thought it was going to change, but it didn't. Yeah, it didn't change. Malaya, she was a sweetheart. Anytime we wanted to see the kids, she'd come by for a visit. She'd bring them by all the time. It was actually really, really good.
So when was the last time you saw the children?
1.5 years, almost, really. It's about 1 year and 9 months.
How did you deal with that?
Really, to be honest, maybe I didn't deal good enough with it. I looked at the fact that when her and my son separated, my son walked away. He chose to walk away, that she wanted sole custody of the kids. So she petitioned the courts for sole custody, and when she did that, he said he was done.
Were you ever formally questioned?
Yes.
So then it's about a month after Lily and Jack are last seen that they come and formally question you.
So it's about 3 weeks. They questioned Cody for 1.5 hours in the vehicle, and then they questioned me for 2 hours in the vehicle.
How did that feel to you?
I didn't mind. I mean, to me, I expected, I'm the grandmother, so it wasn't a surprise to me. I'm assuming the sooner they do all that, I wish they would have done it sooner, that the sooner they can move on. So I didn't have a problem. My son was a little upset about it. He said they made him feel like he did something wrong, and he said he hadn't seen the kids in 3 years. So he was a little upset about it, that he said that they really come at him hard. They wanted to know what her favorite color was, and he said, they were babies when I seen them last. He said, she was just learning what she wanted to figure out to eat. I don't know what her color is. So yeah, he was pretty upset.
Have they ever talked to him again since then?
A couple of days ago, they had contact and they told him that they weren't looking his way anymore, that everything was fine.
And have they ever given you any information?
No, it's always the same thing.
Which is what?
They've got everybody on it. They are looking at all avenues. They can't divulge any information that could compromise their investigation. It's the exact same words.
Why are you so sure they're not in the woods?
I have children. I have grandchildren. And I see what kids are like through the woods. There's no reason for any child to wander deep into the woods. There's just not. I think somebody hurt these kids. I think somebody hurt them.
You don't sound very hopeful.
No. Our last day searching on Monday and seeing the woods and seeing the searchers and everybody everywhere. There's no way those kids are in the woods. There is nothing more pure and innocent than a 6 and a 4-year-old.
What makes this case even more tragic is what we now know about Child Protection Services. According to leaked documents and insider sources, CPS had been monitoring the household for months. There were red flags, missed appointments, reports from neighbors, anonymous tips. But nothing was done. No intervention, no emergency relocation. In hindsight, it's easy to say what should have happened. But these weren't just red flags. They were alarm bells. And somehow, no one heard them in time. By June 2025, it became undeniably clear this was no longer a missing persons case. Minister Scott Armstrong, when asked directly about the situation, confirmed what many feared. The Department of Community Services had an open file on Lilly and Jack before their disappearance. He refused to discuss details, citing confidentiality, but his words were careful and telling. We have no idea where these children are, and we should focus on helping them and finding them. But that statement carried a shadow. The system was already concerned about this family, and when the unimaginable happened, it didn't hesitate. It assumed the worst. That's likely why the Major Crime Unit was called in almost immediately, and why, when Malia Brooks Murray violated a protective order involving her youngest daughter, Meadow, Child Services responded with remarkable speed. They already knew. They'd seen enough to know something was wrong. By summer, the investigation had grown into one of the largest in Nova Scotia's history. More than 11 RCMP divisions are now involved, including major crime, digital forensics, truth verification, and police dog services. Over 500 public tips have been logged, at least 54 formal interviews conducted, hours upon hours of surveillance footage reviewed. Investigators have searched septic tanks, wells, forests, abandoned mines. And then came the announcement that changed everything. On June 19, 2025, the government of Nova Scotia placed this case under the province's Unsolved Major Crimes Program, the same program used in homicide investigations. A $150,000 reward was offered for any information leading to Lilly and Jack. Out of 122 active cases in that program, nearly all are murder cases.
The province of Nova Scotia is offering a reward of up to $150,000 for any information relating to the two siblings who were reported missing last month. 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan were reported missing from their home on May 2nd in Lansdowne Station in Pictou County. In a brief phone call today, the children's maternal grandmother told Global News the family's focus is on finding Lilly and Jack, and they hope this reward will help. Premier Tim Houston says he's also hoping for the safe return of the children. Nova Scotia's Justice Minister says the province is doing everything they can to support the RCMP in the investigation.
Everyone's obviously still hoping for the safe return of the children. It's a really difficult thing. The whole community is feeling that emotion. So I know there's been a tremendous effort and response to try to find them, and the response continues, and we're all just hoping for the safe response.
We appreciate the work of the investigators, the RCMP, and others who responded in the early days and as the case has unfolded. To support the search and now the investigation. We really appreciate the work that they've been doing, and we want to do everything we can to support them.
That's when the official classification changed. This was no longer a search for missing children. This was now a major crime investigation. And still, the most disturbing part of the story was yet to come.
This is not a criminal investigation now, I'd be totally surprised.
The RCMP say they've collected hundreds of hours of video from areas surrounding Lansdowne Station between April 28th and May 2nd, when the kids went missing, and have received nearly 500 tips from the public. Police say they've searched every aspect of the family's home and received authorization to seize and examine devices.
They'll go on the balance of probabilities based on the area that we fully searched with a lot of people. We can't find any evidence, be it a backpack, a shoe, or whatever. We can't find the kids. If you can't find them, somebody has to say enough is enough right now for searching those areas. So now we move to where? There's only one other option. A nefarious take to this. In other words, a criminal type thing. That's only my personal opinion.
Behavior always tells a story, and in this case, it speaks volumes. The day after Lilly and Jack disappeared, Malia vanished too. She blocked her stepfather on social media. She never held a press conference, never addressed the public. She went completely silent. Meanwhile, Daniel Martell, her partner, became erratic. His early posts were poetic, even desperate. Malia, I'll be the Daniel you met at the waterfalls. But his tone shifted. Days later, Malia, Meadow, and I will visit you in prison. Behind the scenes, things grew uglier. A physical altercation broke out in Malia's mother's yard, where Daniel was directly accused by family members of knowing more than he admitted. Emotions exploded, accusations flew, but one detail raised eyebrows more than any other: the RCMP's refusal to use cadaver dogs. When asked, authorities said, any dog-based searches will be guided by intelligence gathered as part of the ongoing investigation. But what kind of information would justify not using dogs trained to find human remains? What do they know that we don't?
Do you think those kids are in the woods?
From everything I've seen, yes. We got the first call shortly after 11 on Friday morning on the 2nd that there was 2 children lost up here in Lansdowne, and we just deployed the team and got here as fast as we could.
And when you got that first call, did anything stand out about that first call as unique or unusual? Or?
It's not common to have 2 lost subjects in that kind of scenario, so with kids like that, it's not common to have the 2. It's not uncommon, so a pair of hikers is overdue or something like that, but with kids it is a little uncommon to have 2 gone missing.
Have you found anything?
The only thing that we had was the boot prints that everybody, and we still cannot 100% say that they belong to the children, but that was pretty much the only thing that we had.
You think they're in the woods?
I have not been told anything to lead me to any other conclusion at this point.
Why can't you find them?
They're small, they'd be hiding. They would have crawled underneath something probably when they got tired. They could have gone further than what we searched. There's all kinds of scenarios, unfortunately. So we're on Lansdowne Road. It was in one of the areas that was searched extensively, as you can tell from like the flagging tape in the woods. So when teams are tasked, they get a bearing or a waypoint or both for where they're to start. So they come down into the woods and they'll tie a ribbon so they know where their start point is. And then they start on their compass bearing into the woods. As you can see another flag. So this is where they were going straight into the woods. So they're following their bearing, putting their flag line down and searching at the same time. Coming up through all of this stuff.
How much of this is down because of Fiona?
A lot of this is down because of Fiona, and some of it could have come down after the fact, but the vast majority of it was probably from Fiona. So grid searching comes in different types. So we have type 1, type 2, and type 3. A type 1 is fairly open. So if we're looking more for signs of travel or say larger objects, so if we know they have a backpack or something like that, we can space people out, 10, 20 meters apart. And especially if we think somebody's going to be responsive, so they're going to talk to us when they're calling to us, we'll do open. We were doing closed grid or type 2, so teams were very close together because we were expecting children to be hiding. A lot of children that age range will hide. So if we're 20 meters apart in some of these woods, you can't see 2 feet away from you. Like there would be places where teams would be almost able to touch their fingertips together and they couldn't actually see each other through the bushes. It's that thick in places.
So how does this compare to what your teams have been dealing with?
This is actually fairly mild compared to some of the areas.
Mild? It looks like such a mess.
It does look like a mess, and you got the thorn bushes and the deadfalls, but there's places that are actually a lot worse, but there are places that are a little bit better as well.
Mm-hmm. But what would be worse?
A lot more deadfall. You can get places where it's just deadfall on top of deadfall on top of deadfall, and you literally have to crawl underneath of it or climb over top of it.
You were also saying, though, to the general public, don't come help us. Why did you say that?
We don't want the general public in the area because we use a lot of very specialized assets like canines that are looking for the freshest human scent they can find. So if we have somebody from the public go through an area and we don't know, but we were deliberately waiting to send a canine into that area, that canine could get on the track from that person, and then we've just wasted that resource because once that dog's probably done its track, they're probably exhausted and can't go out and do anything else. And same as drones, if we're flying a drone over the area and we get a heat signature from somebody in an area and we can't identify who or what it is, then we have to send GSAR resources in or police resources to confirm who that is. And in the same breath, a lot of it comes down to training. So our people are trained to look for the little things, the footprints, the pieces of clothing that are discarded, the broken branches, spots where somebody might have crawled in underneath something and had a nap or something like that. So they're very clue sensitive is what we call it. They're clue finders. So we're not just looking for the two children, we're looking for all the evidence of them going through the area, which is a big part of what we do. So when the boot print was found, we told the team just to send us the coordinates. We got a picture. Yeah, it looks like a children's rubber boot print, which is what we were looking for. Conversed with the incident commander. Yeah, we're going to send. We sent an RCMP K9 in first. Then we sent human tracking teams, so like man trackers. So we have some members that have been trained to do tracking themselves. We sent them in and we did some grid searching in the area to see, just to follow up. And then the RCMP forensics unit went in and did actually a cast of the boot print. We did investigate a few wells and mine shafts. The teams came across them in the woods, so they would look in them as best they could. There was one mine shaft we actually ended up flying a drone into to see if there was any sign of anything going in there, because it wasn't safe to send people in. And there was no sign of any disturbance or anything inside the mine shaft. So I know they're still doing investigation. Anytime a tip comes in, they follow right up on it. So.
Do you feel it's been searched as well as it can be searched?
What has been searched very well. Very extensive. With over 12,000 hours put in on the search. It's pretty much unheard of in this province. All searches are hard unless we have a good ending, obviously. But some hit closer to home than others do. There was members that couldn't bring themselves to call the names, but other people on the team were, so it wasn't impeding the search effort, but because of personal reasons, they couldn't actually physically call for the names themselves.
They just couldn't say the words?
They couldn't get it out, no, for whatever reason they had. And there was people coming to the end of it that, whether it was physically, they were just exhausted, or mentally exhausted, that couldn't return to the search area as well. So we saw a little bit lower numbers on some of the revisit searches that we did with some of the teams.
For that first weekend search, after, the searches scaled back on May 7th,
yeah.
What were you told when you got that call? Like, why were you going back?
It was actually a conversation. I was meeting with major crimes on a regular basis, going through the paperwork from the search and showing them what was covered and what wasn't covered. And it was actually a conversation had between us that, yeah, there's some areas that we would like to go in and get covered off, either better or new areas that we said, well, there's a possibility, so we want to just go search those areas as well. So it's not uncommon for us to go back to a search if we haven't found something.
What prompted then the second weekend search?
Basically the same thing, just more areas that we really wanted to see get covered and just expand out on what we had done.
So just to be clear, it was not as a result of the new information?
It was not, no.
I think it gave some people in the public hope.
Yes.
Like, oh, maybe they found something there in that area they're looking. Yeah. It wasn't that.
It was not. So it was just that we wanted to extend out our search area and cover off areas. Most of these people, they're all volunteers. They just want to find the kids and bring them home. So they're more than willing to keep coming back and keep searching. Unfortunately, at this point, unless something comes up, we're probably not going to be back. But that being said, somebody could find something that brings us back. Children just bring out the best in people when we're in a situation like this. Everybody just wants to come and do everything they can.
On May 28th, police revealed a critical update. Surveillance footage had confirmed Lilly and Jack were seen alive with the family in New Glasgow on May 1st at 2:00 p.m. That was the last verified sighting of the children.
Gathered so far, we have confirmed that Lilly and Jack were observed in public with family members on the afternoon of May 1st. Anyone who has dash cam footage or video along Garlick Road between noon on April 28th and noon on May 2nd to contact Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crime.
From that moment until the 911 call made by Malia the following morning, almost 20 hours are completely unaccounted for. No cameras, no witnesses, no public trail. 20 hours in which everything could have happened. Then came the moment many observers now view as a turning point, perhaps even a confession by action. At the end of June, Malia suddenly fled her mother's home in Wentworth, violating active child protection orders. She took Meadow, her youngest child, and reportedly attempted to reach a remote First Nations community, Her mother tried to stop her, physically, but failed. Child Protective Services responded swiftly. Meadow was immediately removed from Malia's custody. What does this say? At best, Malia was acting out of fear and instability. At worst, she knew that the truth was getting too close. And then came Daniel's public post. Malia is running from the RCMP. She knows everything. She couldn't stay around me because she'd break down. I would find out the truth. There are rumors, whispers. Some believe the children may still be alive, hidden away. But if that's true, then every passing hour increases the danger. Because panic leads to mistakes. History shows us, not through theories but real precedents, that when people fear being discovered, they make desperate choices. Choices that cannot be undone. RCMP dogs tracked the children's scent to the road, where it vanished, indicating they were likely taken away by car. By who? Why? And where did that road lead? It's been over 8 weeks now, and everyone involved, the family, the public, the investigators, is reaching a breaking point. The tension is unbearable, and the case is reaching its climax. And now, someone has stepped forward. His name is Darren Geddes, a relative of the family, a man who has known many of the people involved in this case for years. He's from Trenton, Nova Scotia. For 3 decades, he ran an excavation business in the region. His son used to work with Daniel Martell, and he's not just another voice on the internet. He knows these people. What Darren shared publicly shook everything we thought we understood. And if he's right, if even part of what he says is true, then Lilly and Jack may still be alive. But that would also mean they are in danger right now. Darren believes the children were not victims of violence, but were instead taken to safety by people trying to protect them, people from their mother's indigenous community. The children are alive, he said. I'm 1,000% sure. They're probably not in Nova Scotia anymore, but they're safe, being cared for by her people. He claims to have a direct source, someone with inside knowledge, someone in the center of it all. And Darren insists that if this turns out to be false, he will expose that source publicly. But according to him, the story doesn't begin on May the 2nd. It began long before that, in the quiet tension of a struggling home. Malia, he says, was suffering, overwhelmed with postpartum depression, deeply unhappy with Daniel, and afraid. She confided in friends, young women her age, and Darren believes those friends made a plan, a reckless one, to help her and the children escape. Just imagine, Darren says, a group of young girls trying to pull off something like this. You can see how stupid and dangerous it was. Then comes the moment that changes everything, the morning of May 2nd. Darren believes that Malia dressed the children, walked them to the roadside near their home, and placed them in a car. He says he's 80% sure he knows who was driving, though he hasn't named names publicly. But something went wrong. A neighbor, Janie, unexpectedly came outside. Darren says Janie wasn't supposed to be home that early, and Malia was caught off guard. She was just standing there. Janie asked her, "What have you done?" And Malia couldn't speak. She was frozen. That moment, Darren believes, was the beginning of the unraveling. And it might also explain the way Daniel later described seeing Malia, standing alone on the side of the road, phone in hand, looking dazed, like someone who had just crossed a line they couldn't return from. But Darren isn't just telling a story. He's issuing a warning. If these children are still alive, and if they're where I think they are, we're getting close. The people hiding them know that. If you panic, if you think hurting them will protect you, you're wrong. Don't run. Don't bury this deeper. Bring the children to the light. This isn't about theories anymore. It's about time. And time is running out. I want the police to act now, he says. Not next week. Not in another press conference. Now. He believes the children may have been moved through rural properties, from areas like Tatamagouche, possibly even across the border into the United States. through indigenous land. One possibility he mentioned, Plattsburgh, New York.
Those kids are alive, and that's a big if because it's been a long time, but I still believe there's a very good chance they are. If those kids are still alive, and if they're where I think they are, if you, to the god idiots that are still holding on to those kids, I want to say this. If you panic, we're zeroing in on you, and you know it. The last couple of days, they know we're zeroing in on them. And if you panic and hurt those kids, thinking that you're going to hurt them and get rid of them and not get nailed, you're wrong. Because we're already very close to having you. Then I believe the person that eavesdropped on me, I intentionally let them eavesdrop on me. And then I believe they directly called Malaya. Within a half an hour, Malaya had panicked and grabbed the baby, grabbed Meadow, and took off from Cindy's place, which is her mother's place in Wentworth.
Right.
And that's where she's been staying under 24-hour supervision by CPS. But anyway, she fought with her mother. Her mother tried to keep her there physically and couldn't keep her there. And Malaya headed, what I was told by the other family members who called me back right away, and that she had grabbed the baby and ran and headed for the reserve at Shubenacadie. Why she would head for the reserve, I don't know. And I don't know for sure if that's where the chief of the Micmac Reserve, if it's his brother, that's her lawyer. And the only thing I can think of in that, and not so, what I don't know, I'll say I don't know. What I know, I know. Now, I don't know exactly why she ran for the reserve, but the only connection I can think of is that her lawyer's there. Maybe she thinks she can get some kind of, I don't know, legal protection or whatever, because I think she realizes that the jig is up. And I think she realized that I knew more than I made an educated guess, and I think I was right, and it made her panic. And what I'm pretty sure happened is Malaya, they had a few arguments, they had a bad stretch for a while.
Right.
And Malaya was complaining to some members of the family. And she lost her temper or lost her control a little bit, and she was like seriously complaining, saying she wanted out of there and stuff like this, right? And then there was some stuff she said that really wasn't true, but I think she was exaggerating her position. Now, some members of the family took that seriously, and they decided on their own. To look into it, right? And then she made a bad mistake. There was some people involved with her. They made a bad mistake thinking they were doing something good. And before they realized what happened, things blew up so quick. The Mounties moved in so quick with the dogs.
Right.
The searchers and everything started so quick that by the time they realized, Jesus, what did we do? It was gone too far. They couldn't back out of it. I'm very sure at this point that Malaya dressed the kids and took them to the roadside and put them in a vehicle. I'm about 80% sure I know who was driving the vehicle. I know who was in the vehicle.
Okay.
And I know who transported the kids. I'm very, very, very close to being 100% on that one. And when I finish finding out for absolute sure, then I'm gonna be able to find where those kids got delivered. But every indication through everywhere is yes, Malaya knows where they're at. And her bailing today was another large indication to me, because I think she was informed very quickly that I stated a name. I inquired about a name. And I was eavesdropped on, and I dropped the name because I wanted to be eavesdropped on.
Right.
The person that was eavesdropping, I was very suspicious of being involved. And before I got back home, I got the phone call that Malaya had grabbed the baby, panicked, and took off. Here's my understanding on Janie. Malaya never thought that Janie was home at the time, in the morning, that early in the morning.
Right.
Malaya was on the side of the road, and Janie showed up and surprised the shit out of Malaya.
She was on the side of the road?
Yeah. I believe this is not fact.
Okay, speculation.
I can't prove it.
Okay.
I believe that Janie just missed the kid transfer. I believe that Janie just missed the kids being put into a vehicle. She didn't know that Janie was home. She never thought Janie was home. So I think her plan was, when those kids went down the road, I think Daniel was sleeping. I think she was going to go back in, take the baby, and bail. But you see, Janie was home and got awakened and came out to the side of the road. And that's when you've heard Daniel say that she was kind of stunned on the side of the road and looking guilty when he came out, because Janie was already there, and that she was looking guilty and that she was playing with her phone.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think like Janie sort of caught her unintentionally and didn't know she caught her. Like, she wondered what she was doing out the side of the road that early.
Right.
And from what I understand the conversation, Janie never had much. Janie looked at Malay and said, "What did you do?" And Malay just stood there stunned. Now that's what I heard. Now this part of this I can't prove because I wasn't there.
Wherever they are, this case has reached its tipping point. If Darren is right, the children are alive, but every passing day increases the risk. The pressure is growing. Public attention is building, and people under pressure make mistakes. But if Darren is wrong, then what we're witnessing may be something else entirely. One of the most carefully orchestrated attempts to cover up a crime in modern Canadian history. Either way, the walls are closing in. Malia has gone silent. Daniel has turned to threats online. Police are offering a record-breaking reward. And 2 children, somewhere out there, are either waiting to come home or waiting to be found.
We don't have evidence to suggest that an abduction took place at this time.
Is it something you're still investigating, whether or not they could have been abducted?
So we're exploring all investigative avenues. So on the morning of May 2nd, approximately 10 a.m., RCMP officers received a call about 2 missing children in Lansdowne Station. The information at the time was that they wandered off away from the property, and I can tell you that our officers got at the scene very quickly, and we were monitoring the situation and hopefully finding the children very soon after that.
So it's very quickly. Officers arrive, and then what? You expected, it sounds like you're saying, that you'd find the children quickly, or hoped you would anyways. That didn't happen.
So Kayla, what I can tell you, from experience, you look at missing children. I've been involved with a handful of cases since I've been with Strategic Communications. Most oftentimes, the children are located very quickly after officers arrive at the scene, right? And that's our hope every single time, that they wandered off and you can find the children. Because I'm sure, like every officer out there, I'm not on the road currently, but your heart is pounding, the adrenaline is rushing, you're trying to find those children, right?
And this case started just like that?
That's
what you're
correct.
describing, you thought you'd go there, find them very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And our officers were nearby in an ongoing search for a kayaker that had gone missing the day prior. I can tell you I was monitoring the situation remotely, and our officers, I could tell they were getting there as quickly as possible.
There are some, as you are aware, many theories out there. Some people think, well, maybe it's really just a tragic accident. Maybe they just wandered off into the woods. But you've said that it's suspicious. So at the very least, why does the RCMP view this case as suspicious?
So every missing persons investigation is suspicious until it's proven that it's not. If we don't have that information to say that it's not suspicious, we have to continue to assume that it is suspicious and access those resources and tools and follow up those tips and find that evidence until we find the people that are missing.
So you don't think they were abducted, but you can't find them. How do 2 young children just vanish?
That's a great question, Kayla. And we are asking for the public for tips and information. And to date, we've received close to 500 tips. So we have to follow up on those tips, right? Whether it's a tip that indicates that there could be something that happened elsewhere in the province, elsewhere in the country, we have to follow up on those investigative tips to rule them out. And to this date, we haven't had any confirmed sightings.
But there have been tips that lead you to other parts of the country that you had to check.
As with any investigation, oftentimes we do get tips that you have to verify that are elsewhere, yes.
You have said that the children were last seen alive the day before. Can you tell me about the nature of that?
So we know they were seen in public with loved ones the day prior. The specifics aren't being released at this time.
Okay, and so that's the day before, so that's May 1st, but you've specifically asked for video back to April 28th. What's the reason for that?
You know, when you establish a timeline for any investigation, you want to know where these individuals were prior. They may have been in contact with someone that you want to know who that person is. You may see something on that footage that you didn't know about prior to that. You know, we talked about license plates earlier and seeing them from a different angle. You might see someone that's known elsewhere. Maybe it's someone that's known to police. You never know. We really are seeking all investigative avenues in this case.
There have been some complaints that an Amber Alert was not issued. I understand that the criteria is very specific. Was that considered? Is it still possible?
Absolutely, Kayla. You know, on the day of the incident, I can tell you I was working. I reviewed the policy that morning. We have to have a suspect or a person of interest when it comes to abduction or a vehicle. You know, in terms of sending out an alert, when you send an Amber Alert, you want to direct the public to look for a specific vehicle, to look for that license plate, to look for that suspicious person, to have a photo of someone or more information to suggest that there was an abduction. In this case, you know, they are young children, certainly vulnerable people, and a vulnerable person alert was issued.
Does the RCMP know what happened here? Even if you can't tell me, do you know?
So what I can tell you is that we're exploring all investigative avenues.
Do you have a case? Are you building a specific case that's leading you in a certain direction?
In this case, the investigation is still being investigated under the Missing Persons Act.
It sort of seems from the last news release that you issued, the reason I'm asking these questions, I read that news release and I thought, I don't think they have any idea what happened here.
You know, when it comes to missing people, it's very complex. It can be very long-term investigations. It can be difficult on first responders, especially when it involves vulnerable people. And we have to be patient, and we have to follow the leads and follow the facts and evidence that we gather to bring us to locating the children.
Does the RCMP think Lilly and Jack could still be alive?
That's a great question, and we want to locate them and find them. And our goal is to investigate every single avenue until we find them.
Is it possible at this point?
That's a great question, and our role is to find them in the evidence surrounding their disappearance.
You mentioned a lot of the tips you're getting. I'm sure you're aware there's extraordinary public interest in this case. Some people are frustrated that the RCMP is not saying more. We understand it's an active investigation. And in some cases, the lack of information leads to speculation, and rumors are rampant online, and that's done some harm on the family in this case as well. What, though, would you say to the public who are begging for answers and just want to know what's happened here?
We have to be patient and certainly rely on our news releases and official sources of information. You know, don't listen to those rumors that are out there. We're putting out those news releases on a regular basis with information pertaining to the investigation. We have to be very cautious as to what type of information we release because we want to make sure that it doesn't affect the investigation.
I think some people in the public are starting to wonder, is it possible that we may never find out what happened to Lilly and Jack? Is that possible?
I wouldn't be able to answer you that question today, but I can tell you that our investigators are seasoned. They are committed. I've worked with some of them personally prior in my career, and I can tell you that they are committed investigators to this missing children's investigation.
This is no longer just a story about missing children. This is a story about a system that saw the warning signs and failed. About people who may have acted out of desperation or deception. And about two small children whose lives were shaped by generations of pain, silence, and fear. Whether this ends in a reunion or in something unimaginable will depend on what happens next. Right now. So now you know everything we know. The puzzle is nearly complete. But the last piece, the one that tells us where Lilly and Jack really are, is still missing. If you believe the family acted to protect them, if you believe this was an act of love, or if you believe something darker is at play, tell us in the comments. Because maybe, just maybe, your perspective will help us see the piece we missed. And maybe that's how we find them, before it's too late.